Alright guys, welcome to another On the Couch at Hookers on this rainy, stormy Wednesday in Cape Town. And all the way in this rain and storm, I've got Chad Goldschmidt with me, a very honored guest, and why we're excited to have him is simple reason. New anglers, or feeling new to angling, a little bit of experience price. So let's talk about it. Chad Goldschmidt. Babut, thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming.
No problem.
Alright. So Chad, first and foremost, the reason why we asked you, and thank you very much for accepting the invite, is simply because Chad is fairly new to angling, and we'd like him to share his experience, what he's gone through as a new angler, what it was like for him asking, learning, and then just take us a bit about through his spiel, and then obviously successes we had. Right, Chad, that's your audience out there, like I tell everybody, so do your thing. First question I got for you is, when did you officially start fishing?
Like officially last year November, about October, November side.
Right.
That's when I actually like went, like full on into it.
All right.
Where I got myself a reel, got myself a rod, got myself some like tackle and stuff, and went out to the beach, and like I had no idea what I was doing.
All right. So here's the question, right? You had absolutely no idea.
Not a clue.
Right. So I just want to remind you guys, the reason for this podcast is that the newer guys or guys that are recently into fishing, years experience and learn from it, like I said, and just know that there is help out there. Right.
Yeah.
So now you just went green, you went onto the beach, right? First and foremost, you have a fishing channel on TikTok. Am I right?
I do.
It's called
Fishing for Foco.
So guys, go out onto TikTok, fishing the number four, fishing for Foco, right? And I'm sure there's a history behind the name or a reason behind the name, right? You went out onto the beach. You knew absolutely nothing. Explain.
Literally. Yeah. So I think the first time, like, I bought a rod for my cousin.
Right.
It wasn't the most ideal rod because, like I know now, it's a shark rod. At the time, I had no idea what I was buying, but I looked at the rod. It was in a nice condition. He said it's a Makaira, Kuma Makaira. I did some like
very good rods.
Googled it, and I saw like it's a good rod. Got myself a Zoz, the 6000.
Okay.
And I YouTubed the quick trace and went out to Broken.
Yeah.
A bit intimidated because it was in the Coptober, time.
Okay, so just a quick one. I'm gonna break you there. You said you Googled the trace specifically for cob.
For cob, yeah.
Right, though. Carry on.
I remember from, like, I used to fish with my cousins back in the day, and I remember they always used running traces.
Okay.
And then I just Googled on how to tie the trace and stuff. But like, I mean, went to Broken, got myself some bait, and I just, you wing it. But it was a bit intimidating, I'm not gonna lie. Because when you get to the beach, beach is full, Broken's, it's a very famous spot. It's full of fishermen. Now you look for your spot and you think to yourself, I can't cast properly, man. I can't cast fish.
I think that's the worst for most people.
It is, but
because they're so scared they're going to try and anticipate them. I'm going to throw straight them. I'm not going to throw over his line.
That's the worst.
And you ever have an experience throwing over somebody's line?
Once or twice. Even now, like it does happen, and it's expected when the beach is full.
Full, yeah.
Like, I mean, you can't help if you're standing like on each other.
But on your first day,
I caught a sand shark on my first outing.
Okay.
With myself and the wifey. And
because remember, I'm building up to the name here now.
The Fishing for Foco.
Yeah, because that's what I'm asking. Right. So, guys, a quick lesson from this is that Chad took his own initiative. He went out there. If you're new to fishing, don't be scared to go and try. And you're not?
The usual fishing knot. Like, where you
like a snell.
Like, well, not on my hooks I use the snell knot, but like when you tie hooks, lines to like swivels and stuff, the figure of eight, or the other knot where it goes around and then through the loop. I don't know what it's called, but
we call it the fisherman's
knot. Yeah.
All right, so you Googled that.
I knew the fisherman's knot.
Okay.
The snell knot I Googled, and the figure of eight knot I Googled, and there's a couple of knots now that I've learned to tie or relate to your.
All right. So you started fishing last year.
Last year, about let's say November.
Right. So before that, you just used to mess around with your cousins.
Yeah, you know, when you maybe go away with the kids and stuff, you'll take a small rod with and
throw
something and hope for the best.
Chad, here's my thing, right? Now I'm gonna jump straight into it. So your channel is called Fishing for Foco.
Yeah.
So I understand you're a new angler, and you were going out there. You caught a sand shark, whatever. So how did the name? Wow, explain.
So after the sand shark experience, I was a regular at Broken Road. And then my cousins started joining me. My 3 cousins.
Okay.
And
you can do a shout out to them, man.
Firoz, Zahir, and Nikki.
Okay.
So like Firoz has always been a fisherman basically his whole life.
Okay.
And he came with me. Zahir and Nikki, we went to the beach. And like you know, we were at Broken almost every day, 3 times a week. They catching, standing, but nothing happened.
Okay.
We caught Foco. Like we blanked almost every single time we went out. But you know what? It was a liquor sunny day. There was no wind.
Right.
We were a group of liquor guys.
Right.
So we enjoyed that aspect of it. But like catching fish, we caught
Jack.
Blanked every session.
Right. So that was through your November, December.
That was through November, December, yeah.
And you got nothing in December as well. Right. At this point, as a fairly new angler, what I'd like to ask you was, did you go and check maybe your baits that they're using? Maybe the guys, did you ask any of the anglers on the beach, or maybe you were fishing, somebody caught a fish? Anybody give you advice on that beach? Anything like that?
I think a lot of the learning or advice came from YouTube. Like I didn't really smart walking up to people. Like, you know, in the beginning stages, you don't even know what you're talking about because you know, you're very inexperienced.
That's fair. That's
so fair. Like walking up to people and asking them, like, it wasn't my thing. I rather stuck to like Google or YouTube or that type of thing. You know.
So what I'd like to tell you, and for the guys out there that is starting getting into it or recent into it, that here at Hooked Cost and Customs, that you know, our business is filled up with a huge client base that's really young to angling. And if anybody does come in, we offer that advice. We don't know everything, but what we know, we share our own knowledge areas, things like that, tides, you know, conditions. So just remember that there is out there. Like you said, you felt very intimidated was your first time. But remember, there is people out there that's helping, and we are one of the stores that is very proud to say that we.
I think when I started out fishing, like I had no idea how to make traces. Everything, like I said, was Google and YouTube.
Yeah.
I think I still remember messaging you when I asked you, do you guys sell like ready-made traces?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know how to make up a trace.
Sure, absolutely.
And you responded. You said I must come in and have a look, and we can have a chat. But I never did.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, if anybody's wants to message you, like I've had a good experience with this guy.
You don't just have to say that to you on camera.
No, I'm being serious.
Right. So guys, the reason is once again is the fact of newbie anglers coming in or fairly recent to angling. I just want to get that terminology right. You took that initiative when you went. Now this is my question: at which point did you catch your first take home edible fish? But before you answer that, are you in possession of a valid fishing permit?
I am.
Right. So I just want to tell you something, that if at any given point anybody needs a permit, we are assisting people to get their online permits. So we can literally do your permit for you in-store to assist you to get a permit. So anybody that's not sure where to go, we know there's an issue with permits on post office, but we are able to. Right now, back to you. First point of success.
So like I said, through October, November, December, nothing happened. My cousins, like we were discussing and stuff, and they said, "Why don't you create like an account, or like a TikTok account or something?" And then that's how the name came up, because we were like thinking about names, and then my one cousin was like, "You know, every time we go fish, we catch foco. You might as well name the account Fishing for Foco, because that's what we're fishing for."
Okay.
So yeah, that's how the name of the account came up, and then I think the first fish came in January. Jan. Towards the end of Jan, we went out to Langebaan for a weekend. And I caught a size stump nose. on white muscle.
So it just, here's the question. You went out to Langebaan, you had this. Which rod did you use in Langebaan?
I knew you were going to make me talk about because I caught the stump nose on a 6 to 8 ounce rod on the Makaira.
I didn't even feel the fish on the rod.
I don't know, but I don't know. Like,
I'm sorry, but I had to ask that question. Like.
I remember there was a bali that was standing above. You know, they're in Langebaan by
the inspector's office.
The inspector's office. So if you stand on the corner there, you get that, you know.
Yeah.
So there was a bali standing on top, and he said, "Nah, lekker setup. Like he liked my setup. If only he knew how heavy the rod was."
Okay. Did he really like it, or was he?
No. He really liked the setup, but obviously he can't see like it's a 6 to 8 ounce shark rod. Yeah. But yeah, caught my first fish on a shark rod.
Right, and then what did you do with the stump nose?
I took it to size.
Yeah, but you dried it.
I fried it.
No?
Yeah, cut it open.
So how was it eating your very first fish that you caught? I taste the best.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful.
Right.
Like there's nothing better than a freshly caught fish.
But the journey continues.
It did. And after that, I caught Alf at Broken Road. There was one day, again, the 4 cousins were there. And the Alf were just on the spot at that specific time. And it was going. It was going, yeah.
How was that feeling to get into an Alf smash?
That was liquor.
Just using clean pilchard?
Yeah.
Okay. What trace were you using when you initially threw when you hooked up on the Alf?
So on the Alf, I also used the running trace.
No, but I'm talking about, was it set up like for cob?
It was. Like at the time we were fishing for cob, and then the Alf just came on the bite.
Sorry.
The Alf just came on the bite, and actually what I've learned with Alf, and like a lot of new anglers will also learn that when they fish and Alf, how do you know Alf is on the bite? Like you'll always hear people say, "There's Alf in the water, there's Alf in the water." How do you know? When you take your line out and you see your hook is gone, that's how you know there's Alf in the water, because Alf bites your line clean off.
So did you change to metal trace?
Actually, we changed to a steel trace.
Okay, there we go.
After that, Alf started coming out.
So and all this coming from somebody that recently really started fishing. Like you said previously, your fishing experience was messing around with small rods with the kids and things like that, and then you got into Alf, right? How did the Alf taste for you? For me, it's an amazing eating fish.
It is. It's very flaky though. It's not. It's not your most solid fish like Cobble Joe and but it's very flaky. But it's still a good eating fish.
But I mean, if you caught it yourself, it tastes even better.
Even better.
There we go. And all this on the shark rod, eh? All right. All this on the shark. Now we need to discuss something. So the Alf was there. You caught your Alf.
Yeah.
So now you were on the stump nose. You were on the Alf. So clearly, some addiction came in.
The addiction. I think the addiction started when, like, obviously when you start catching fish, or like when and there was a period after the Alf where nothing happened, and then you start questioning yourself, like, am I doing something wrong? My wife actually got me like this logbook that she wanted me to start documenting my experience, like the time, the tides, the
wise woman,
conditions. Very wise.
Okay.
Her father was a fisherman.
Oh, okay.
Her father was a fisherman.
A lot, yeah.
So that explains a lot. I've never used it yet. And for
was there any questions on that?
She was a bit upset. Like she felt like she got it for nothing. But like, yeah.
You just have to fill in things, man.
I know, man, but it's good maintenance.
Shame. All right, so. But then you also realize, right, listen here, I need to start changing tackle. At some point in you must have.
Like tackle, hooks, floats, sinkers, and like reading all the conditions start. That's when that came into play, because with the Alf and the stump nose, like we drove down to Langebaan not knowing what the conditions were for that weekend. Not knowing what the weather was.
You just went fishing.
We just went fishing.
Right.
We put the tents in and we thought, we're gonna go for the weekend. But obviously when you go out and you don't catch like you used to, then you start questioning what is different. Is my bait different? Is my bait fresh? Is it high tide? Is it low tide? Like how's the conditions? And then that's when you actually start checking, like Google, reading the apps, looking at at the swells and tides and water temperature. So I've learned a lot.
And this was all your own initiative. You never really had much guys that was helping you per se. Besides your cousins that would advise.
Yeah.
But I mean, you had to take it upon yourself to learn a lot. You know, somebody can only explain to you so much things. And then in that conversation, you start losing focus of a lot of things. And then, so here's my thing. Stamners. Just one question, man. That Stamners, how far did you cross that 15 for the road?
It was quite far. Like it was quite far. Like I can't tell you in terms of meters, but it was quite far.
You mean you pitch like you're gonna throw over a cup?
I hit that rod. I hit that rod, Evie.
Right though. So Stamners, Elf.
Elf, yeah.
Where to from there?
So from there, I caught another elf like a couple of weeks later. Actually, a big one, size one. Caught another elf.
Where was this area that you were catching?
All Broken Road.
Okay.
So like the one thing I must admit, like fishing, like my cousins, for example, they weren't always available to go with me to go fish.
Yeah.
So for new anglers, it's very important that you go to spots that's got movement, there's feet, there's other anglers on the beach, because I mean it's not the safest if you're gonna go to a spot and fish alone.
Absolutely.
So Brokens, is one of the most convenient, the most like, where you can go and they will always, on a nice day, especially in summer.
There's a lot of guys.
There's always guys. Yeah. From Monday to Sunday, there's always guys there.
Yeah.
So most of the fishing happened at Broken Road.
All right. After the elf,
I think there were some guitar sharks that came out, but the next edible fish was the 2 cabochao that I caught. That was an experience. That was something else.
Is it?
That was something else.
And this is all on Broken Road. We're still on Broken Road.
We've never left Broken Road.
We never left Broken Road. Okay,
only recently.
Okay. So here's my question to you, right? You caught your elf a couple of weeks. You caught the elf, then one elf a couple of weeks later. How long did it take before the cob came in?
I think the cob came out about at the end of Feb, like middle March, maybe in Feb.
Change of season.
Season.
So you were so lucky. The East cob there, but I mean, it's only a few of the guys is now going to start getting.
Yeah. Like the one cob was a 2 kilo, and then the second one I caught was a 4.5 kilo, which was like a nice size, 65, 60, 70 centimeter.
So here's what I want to explain to the guys. A lot of people don't understand. They say, they don't like fishing as a sport because they see the guys throw their rod in, they sit the whole time and watch the rod. What's an experience when you caught your fish? Each fish, from your Stamners to the elf to the cob. I mean, that feeling when you're reeling in and you're thinking to yourself, hey, what is this? Is it another banjo shark? And you realize, I got a cob.
I think the anticipation of just knowing, like wanting to know what is at the end of that line had me. Like, obviously your rod knocks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of experienced fishermen now that I can see that when the rod knocks and they're on with the fish, they already know what kind of fish that is. And for me, that is still in like a working progress, because like head shakes and like they speak of head shakes, and I was always amazed.
Yeah.
Fisherman's line is on, but he knows it's a steenbras, or it's a cob, or it's a...
it becomes like it's just natural. You think your line goes pop, you reel in, goes pop, reel in, there's a cob, because many times cob actually swim forward and they start fighting in front. It happens. Or you'll throw for galjoen and you'll see a galjoen has got a different take to a dust, and but with your experience as time goes by, that is just something you pick up. But nobody can just explain it. But I mean, for me, the most prominent fish is an elf. It feels like a typewriter.
It's a very aggressive fish.
Yeah, because it's a predator. Right? And then the advice I always have to the guys out there that's still in the learning curve is understand the species you're targeting, what time of year you're targeting, and how that species feeds and where it feeds. So, for example, if it's galjoen, it's feeding on a bank.
On the reefs and stuff.
If it's steenbras, Bellman, they bottom feeders, so what's your bait that you're going to use, their prawn, worm, those type of things. So those are the type of things that I would highly recommend people look at. And then, of course, it's like you said, your wife was spot on when she gave you a logbook. Because I always tell the guy, when you catch that fish, remember what day it was in terms of season. How was your water? Was it high tide, low tide, pushing tide, dropping tide? You know, was the spring? If there's a wind, where was the wind coming from?
Where was it coming from? Yeah.
If you're not sure of the actual direction of the wind, compass direction, what you do is we're standing on Broken Road, and the wind comes from this side, that side, that side. Then explain to someone, and they can tell you. So well done to you, man. But okay, but now, were you catching all this fish on a 6 to 8 ounce?
Yeah. It was. I still love that rod. I still own the rod.
You still own the rod, yeah.
But I've moved on from.
Right. So what are we fishing with right now?
So currently I've got 3 rods, including the shark rod.
Right.
After the Makaira, I purchased a Euphoria. Brilliant rod.
Okay. That 4 to 6 ounce. 5 to 6.
3 to 5 ounce.
3 to 5 ounce.
14.6.
14.6. Okay.
Brilliant rod. Like if any beginner fisherman, angler, like with, I know the Euphoria is not your most beginner setup.
It's extremely decent. I love it.
It's very decent, but I'm referring to like maybe cost wise.
Yeah.
Maybe like something like a Rockaway or something, you know, before the Euphoria. If any angler owns those type of rods, the next best thing I would say, move to a Euphoria. Yours a brilliant rod.
A Euphoria, and I'm glad you brought it up. Okuma has come a long way in their products, and the Okuma Euphoria is an exceptionally good rod. Whether it's your 3 to 5, 14.6, or your 14 foot 4 to 6 ounce.
It's a good casting rod, man.
I always tell the guys when they come in here that if you're a guy that's new and you can't cast, and you cast with the Euphoria, it makes you look like a...
No, it does.
It's brilliant rod.
I should have started out with the Euphoria.
No, you're right that you started out with something else, but now you appreciate your Euphoria.
I do.
You have a better understanding. So this is my thing. I just want to also share something with you that you know, fishing, this is just my take. Now people understand this, that fishing is a huge amount of skill, but it's also a huge amount of luck.
100%.
So this is how I always explain. We're 5 anglers. We're all laying with bloodworm, for example. We're all fishing in the 100-meter zone. There's one fish in the water. Who does it take? It's the lucky one's going to get him.
The lucky pick of the draw.
Understand what I'm saying?
If the fish is there, they'll bite.
They'll bite.
If they not there, then obviously.
Yeah, but also remember, sometimes the fish is in the bay and they're just not feeding. They'll swim right past your bay.
They will.
You know. So that is the one thing I always leave a guy with, that you try your best to catch your fish, and if it's written for you on that day,
it's written for you.
You know. So don't go to the beach and be despondent. But now I need to discuss what's in front of us over here.
Yeah, right. So like in terms of tackle, fishing is like a drug. It's an addiction.
It's
like I'm sure like anglers watching this, they
you think there must be a tackle rehab center?
I think so. My cousin, he needs to go there. He knows he needs to go there. He needs to go there. That guy's changing setups every 3 months.
Yeah, but we're gonna discuss changing setups. You want to send your cousin to a rehab, and you just purchased another 4x4. And you only changing tackle and you buying vans. Right, let's discuss here. I see you are a Okuma fan.
I am. I do love the brand.
I'm going to tell you something, that where Okuma started and the progression into what they have today is amazing. Amazing. So let's have a look, man. Talk to me about that blue one over there first.
So the blue one is the most used reel out of the lot. It's not the reel I started out with. It's the same reel though, but the one I started out with was a 6,000.
Okay,
that's
smaller
8,000.
Yeah, this is the Okuma Zorz 8,000. This has got a 20 kg drag system, and it's got what they call a dual force drag system. This is brilliant.
Brilliant reel.
This is hard stuff, man.
Brilliant reel. That reel has caught majority of my fish.
So now we're talking about majority fish. So you've caught quite a bit after those 2 cobs as well.
I have. I've caught the galjoen. I've caught such a lot of fish already.
There we go. For someone that started in last October, November.
The only thing I haven't caught is a size Steenbras.
Okay. But please tell me you're releasing it undersized.
Nah, for sure.
All right. Sure. So this is 8,000 Okuma Zorz. I'm going to tell you something. It's got a very good retrieval. It's just an all-round good reel.
Good bang for buck.
Absolutely. It's not exactly a cheap reel, but I mean it's very well priced if you look at where it is in terms of quality and whatever it is. Right. So what rod is that paid to?
Now paid to the Makaira. If I'm fishing 3 rods.
Right.
Because I've got the Makaira, I've got the Euphoria, and I've got a Beachmaster 2, Assassin. So the Selena is paid to the Assassin.
Okay.
And the Tesoro is paid to the Euphoria.
This is a very good reel as well. Very, very smart. Very, very smooth. I love this type of handle.
The power knob.
It's beautiful. It also has a thing, a 20 kg drag system.
Yeah.
Dual force. The difference here is that this has a set of Carbon-Tex washers.
Carbon washers, yeah.
So the other thing you must always remember that when you store your reel, and please guys, when you store a reel, always have your drag loose. So what happens is when it's tight, it will keep the washers compressed, and you don't want to do that. So whenever you store it, you keep it drag loose. It's not a bad in weight, and it's also got an extremely good retrieval over there. Right, that is paid to the Selena is on the.
That's on the
Makaira.
No, that's on the Beachmaster.
On your Beachmaster, Assassin Beachmaster. Right now, I'll show you something. So these my Tesoro as well.
Okay.
Right, and
what size is that?
Okay, this I don't even know.
It looks like a 8,000.
It is 8,000. So that one is I've paid that one to a 13.6 waft. The latest of the waft Pirate Surf. Beautiful rod, and I put that in there and I love it. Simply love it.
How's the balancing?
In terms of so I always like a rod if there's no reel on the rod and you hold the rod in your hand, then your nose dips. A lot of people say, it's nose heavy, but remember something. When you put your reel on and it brings it over there, so it helps you with that pendulum.
With the pendulum.
So for me, that size reel on the 13.6 is perfectly okay. I fish with the Daiwa Salters and that the MQ, and that I normally put on my 14.
It's a nice reel.
Beautiful reel, but I'm going to tell you something. Between these two, I wouldn't know which one to choose because I love them both. But the one thing I am very proud of, or very excited about, is the fact that Okuma's come up with a winner. An absolute. This Tesoro.
I love the drag clicker on the Tesoro.
It's not a cheap reel, and I see you like tight drags. It's not a cheap reel. It's really not a cheap reel. But this is what I like about it. It does things to me.
Put it. Just for the viewers.
Sorry guys, recovering from a flu. All right. So here's my thing, Chad. I need to ask you a couple of questions before we start ending off. Your experience from where you started to where you ended up is something we're going to discuss right now. And then I'm going to ask you to give the guys out the advice. The guy it's coming into the fishing. So fishing has grown quite a bit. So let's get into that. All right. I'm going to sit up straight for this one now. All right.
Should I sit up straight?
No, you just show because you're the guy that's going to tell the story. From not catching fish and starting a channel called Fishing for Focal to having a great amount of success up until this point in the space of less than a year.
Yeah.
Just explain to the audience out there. Just give us a bit of advice for the new guys that's coming that's maybe not catching. You know, how to progress or what it is that you've done. All we're asking is now you need to share.
Well, look, at the end of the day, everybody's different. My perseverance is different to yours.
Yeah.
Yours different to somebody else's.
Absolutely.
And I don't like to lose. So the only thing that I can advise anybody is that if there's anything that you need to know, don't be afraid to ask people, because fishermen is one of the most friendly people that you'll ever get. Okay. Like they are the most knowledge sharing, friendly guys. That I've ever met. Like I mean, you can get stuck, you can whatever. Like someone's always gonna be there to help you.
Okay.
Don't get despondent, because I can guarantee you 100% there's going to be a lot of times that you're going to catch nothing.
Absolutely. And even though you can have a lot of skill, you're going to blank.
No, for sure. Like I know quite like a lot of good anglers, and they go out, they come back, nothing. They have the best of the best equipment, like your rods and reels that can be the best of the best. The fish isn't there. It just isn't there.
Or if they're not feeding.
Or maybe if your timing is just out, or so like it's gonna take a lot of effort. It took a lot of effort from my end.
And you're still learning.
And I'm still learning.
I'm still learning.
Where I'm struggling at the moment is the reading of the water. Okay. I've recently learned where to see where sandbanks are, like where the water's rolling and stuff. Channels and holes and stuff. So it's been quite a journey.
But you know, the nice part about it is that what you are learning is exciting things. It's not like sitting and having to read a poem. No disrespect to the poem, but I'm just saying for a lot of people that would be boring. But this is learning something and then putting it to test.
Yeah,
so it's very exciting.
And like, I mean, Google, YouTube, there's such a lot of people out. I mean, if anybody's gonna message me, like I've had a couple of people DM me on TikTok and ask me about a couple of things and traces and stuff, and I've sent them like this long, like, you know, information and tips and stuff, because I know I was once at that stage where I was reaching out to people,
absolutely,
advice. So
that's a nice thing. And thank you very much for sharing, because remember something, I always tell the guy, if I, for example, I was in Witsunds and we caught Bellman on the one section.
Yeah.
Guy came in, he asked me, where exactly is that? And I explained to him. And then he came back about 2-3 weeks later and he had a broad smile on his face and he just says to me, Ibi, the Bellman's biting. So I didn't recall that I told him.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I said, okay, that's nice. Where? He told me Witsunds. I said, how much did you catch? He says, well, over the weekend they caught some Bellman and things like that. And then I looked at him and I said, oh, hold on. That spot. He just smiled. He says, well, I'm back for that hooks. My thing is, that guy caught fish on the spot that I showed. Yeah. That doesn't mean you're going to catch it every time. Yeah. But what's nice about it is he cannot tell somebody else. And that is how things progress. And if ever your legacy then stays.
No, 100%.
You know? So now, very well. So I just want to ask you something. You got this new reels. Well, these reels now. You've got the rods. You got a van. The last time I saw you had a Ranger, now you on a 4x4, and you had this broad smile. I said, why? He said, no, but now I got a 4x4.
It's an addiction. Like I told you earlier.
I was looking at a viable business, which is actually a tackle rehab center.
You make money, no? Myself and my cousin will be your biggest customer.
I just want to ask you something. Have you been fishing out of Cape Town as well?
So last weekend we went to...
Oh, you contacted me. You were in Eilandkraal.
I went with Uncle Terence.
Okay.
Terence Simpson.
Oh, were you there with Terence?
I was there with Terence. Yeah.
I thought you said you went for work. Now, I just want to tell you something. Just something I experienced. I had 2 rods in the water, and I just built a brand new 13-foot Blue Marlin for my son. And because I don't have a 14-foot right now, so I thought, let me take that rod. Threw in my waft, threw in his rod, and we laid for steenbras. Similar trace. Different heights, blah blah blah, different depth in the water. One we pushed, one whatever. So I was lying for steenbras, and this is the beauty about fishing. On the YouTube channel, I didn't populate properly, but it says the undersized. But the steenbras, I mean the galjoen wasn't undersized. It was a 38 centimeter.
Okay.
But I'm lying with a 2-0 hook with a steenbras trace, and I caught a galjoen. So sometimes you're going to come up with a theory in fishing, and then that theory messes up. Saying, nah, galjoen is not going to go for a long trace like that, or steenbras don't fish like this, and you pick them up. Understand what I'm saying? So for me, I was lucky to catch a galjoen. I didn't like it.
But that's what fishing was about. Like,
it's
like you said earlier, it's probably 50% skill and 50% luck.
Exactly. And that is what I'm saying. So I used my skill to catch a steenbras, but I was lucky to catch a galjoen. And that is the concept that you must always go with, that you need a portion of luck.
No,
5 guys, same bait, same water, same depth, 1 fish. Only the lucky guy that's going to get it. Or 2 fish, only the 2 lucky guys will get it. Chad, up until this point, I can only but wish you well. The one thing I noticed about before we end up is you've got a tray over there, and I see everything is nicely packed. Wide is folded, everything is nicely clean. The reels are looking nice and solid. And I like to tell you something. There's going to be trips you're going to go. You're going to be lazy. You're going to say, I'll wash it when I come back.
Oh, no.
But don't ever lose the respect for your tackle, because remember something. You can catch fish with a hand line, but there's certain areas you need to cast and you need to reel in. So look after your tackle.
It's your tools of the trade.
Exactly. And to anybody out there, you come back, clean off your reels, do whatever you need to. There's one word of advice I got for you and everybody out there. Please do not spray Q20 on any of your product. You contaminate your braid or your rod and your handling, and that Q20, or not that Q20 is a bad product.
Yeah.
I'm talking about any silicone spray.
Yeah. Specifically on the reels.
On the reels, on your braids, on your rods. If I can leave you with that little bit of advice, please don't. And I'm not bashing product, but I'm just talking about silicone spray. It's got its applications and it works well for somewhere else. It doesn't work well on
reels. Yeah.
All right. So that's that. But up until this point, I would like to say a huge thank you to you.
It's only a pleasure,
for coming out in the storm.
It's cold, eh?
It is cold. You can see how I look. I look like the Michelin Man. I'm puffed up here. But once again, I can only but wish you well, and a huge thank you to sharing your little story with the audience out there. And I know we were together in Island Canal last year, but I really thought
we must go out sometime, man.
So
when the weather's better.
Yeah, I've just got some things I have to do in July month now, and then from August, September, I'm starting out. Witsunds is one of my trips, but what we are going to do, and hopefully it will be our next video on our channel as soon as we get some clearance with the weather.
Yeah.
I've got a very good guy that's going to come out, and he's going to be doing a demo on how to do a trace for live bait.
Okay.
And we'd like to get some guys to get jacked up on, or that don't know, would like to learn on how to slide a live bait.
I've never fished with live bait.
So we want this gentleman to do a full demo on the beach, explain how you're going to cast, how you're going to rock your rod, why you're rocking your rod like that. And there's a lot of whys and do's and don'ts and things like that. So what we will do is we can make contact with you, and we will be out on the beach. It's going to be in winter, so dress you warm. It's not like we're going to wait. It's only for demo purposes.
Yeah,
we're not really going to be targeting fish on that particular day. So watch out for that in the next video, and then I look forward to some more action with you, man. Yeah. Chad, thank you
for having me, sir.
I just want to say well done to your wife for giving him that logbook, and make sure he's going to scribble in there. And yeah, all the best. Thanks again.